And welcome back to the Madlanga Commission. It is, of course, day 49 today. And what an interesting week it has been, starting off on the first day of this week, which was, of course, the resumption of these proceedings, where we heard from two witnesses, and then, of course, followed by the KZN Hawks head, who has been on the stand for 2 days, and 2 very interesting days. Without much further ado, let me bring in 2 analysts to help us wade through what we've heard. And boy, have we heard a lot. And Professor Dirk Kotzé and Dr. Levy Ndou, thanks so much to both of you for your time this morning. Let me just start straight out by asking you about what we've heard so far. And we were talking earlier about the terms of reference for this commission, looking into criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system as a whole. But so far, we haven't really traversed too far into the judiciary, and we've literally been around the police and, of course, EMPD to quite a large extent. So what do you make of that in terms of the time that's been allotted for this particular inquiry?
Well, I think the Commission is a bit in a difficult situation. That it's, for me at least, it starts to become clear that they won't be able to address all the aspects of the terms of reference. They've, as you said, focused starting with General Mkhwanazi, so what is his content of his statement of the 6th of July, and then built around that. But now it has almost developed a life of its own, beyond only what he was referring to. Ekurhuleni received a lot of attention as a metro, but the other metros not. So I don't think one should therefore see Ekurhuleni as either in isolation or that it is a representative example of what happens at all metros. That must be established. You can't simply assume that. And there's simply not time for that. There are too many metros. Then, as you indicated, a very sensitive matter is about the judiciary, because it is included explicitly that it must be investigated. General Mkhwanazi referred to it in his original statement, that there is that possibility, but we have absolutely no indication yet about how to substantiate that. And that will be together with what we've seen with the top structure of the police that have been implicated in some instances. If the same applies to the judiciary, that will be red lights for all of us. And would, from the Commission's point of view, serve a very important purpose. But at the moment, there's just nothing to that respect. The NPA is the same. There have been some witnesses here, but it hasn't been a systematic theme that has been addressed, because the NPA and the police are so intimately linked when it especially now comes to prosecutions, and the fact that so many prosecutions are not taking place or is delayed or so are there reasons related to the theme of this commission? So these are things, are aspects that most possibly we won't see answers on, or not in response by the commission. So in the end, I think what we have seen now will possibly become the main focus of the commission. I don't want to undermine the credibility of the commission or what the outcome will be. They've done already very, very important work, but maybe not the complete terms of reference or scope as it was presented to them by the President.
So given what has happened, and before I get to Dr. Ndou, do you believe then, Prof, that there should be a further extension of the time that has been allocated for this inquiry, given the gravity of the allegations and the information that has been shared here?
I'm not in favor of the idea of an extension, because the public perception is that it become indefinite extensions. The Zondo Commission went on for too long, I would say, and it starts to lose its possible impact. So I would rather say have something that follow on but standing on its own, so that this commission can conclude its work, make the recommendations, present their conclusions, so that that process, whatever that's going to be, can be implemented as far as possible, and that it builds more public credibility in the role that judicial commissions can play, and that it can make a real impact. So therefore, I'm personally not in favor of the idea of an extension.
So, Dr. Ndou, just coming to what we've heard this week, and it's been very interesting, but it speaks to the police in a way that the general public will say they've always known. They've always alluded to the rot, but I guess there are layers that are being uncovered that perhaps we were not privy to. But what did you make of the testimony? And also, from a political perspective, the fact that the evidence that was adduced here against the minister who is currently on special leave, should the president be acting at this point one way or another? Or is it still a matter where he can still say that, no, I'm going to wait until the conclusion, at least, of this Commission of Inquiry?
It puts the president in a very, very difficult situation. Because firstly, at the time when this matter came to surface, there were those that were saying that the president should act immediately. And the unfortunate part is that he could not act on the basis of allegations. And what we're getting from the commission is that some of the information that we thought could not come is actually coming out. And it appears as if the people who made statements from General Mkhwanazi and most people appears to have been very selective with the information. Because when you look at the information that came out this week, it also exposes some of the weaknesses from the statements that were made by the role players when the commission started. And that it's an indication that there could be a lot of other information that is hidden, that still has to come out. But also, the judiciary has not been touched. The General Mkhwanazi said also members of parliament are implicated. We haven't had much of that happening. So my sense is that they are in a very, very difficult situation, but who should act? Because the president must wait for the commission to come up with a credible information, but also the very same people who must investigate and arrest are the very same people who must come and provide information to the commission. So we are in a very, very difficult situation in South Africa.
2 points from my side. Firstly, the fact that ministers serve at the behest of the president. And if in an instance such as this, where you find that the allegations, at the very least, create a perception of impropriety that the president cannot look beyond, is he then expected to or compelled to act on that?
Well, from my point of view, the president is not. No, the idea that the minister can only be dismissed because there is overwhelming evidence about whatever he or she is accused is not necessarily necessary. The president, because the president appoints the members of the cabinet, he can remove them without any treason, giving any treason. So if he loses trust in a member of the cabinet, but that person hasn't done anything illegal, for example, he can still dismiss the person.
So if he loses trust, so he still hasn't lost trust, is what his position then indicates right now.
Well, I think President Ramaphosa dug a hole for himself in the beginning by saying he's going to wait for the commission. So now he must wait. That is the commitment he made to everyone. But strictly speaking, I think he went too far, or that it wasn't necessary. And where we are standing now, and as the persons are appearing before the commission, it becomes so abundantly clear where they are. This is not a court of law, the commission. So they don't have to have absolute agreement or clarity about the position of what someone has done or not done. It is about that they must lay the foundation. It's almost a very important preliminary part of the investigation. And someone like President Ramaphosa, one can see in which direction it's going. I mean, there is no evidence that's being still in the pipeline that says, but all the things that we've heard up to now is just, it's not correct. And it replaces that. So in that sense, I think President Ramaphosa typically is, I would say, just too careful about playing it in terms of the procedure and not alienating people very close to him in the process.
And then there's, of course, the second point goes to the police, and especially if we look at the hierarchy, those at the very top. And what we've heard so far in terms of evidence that's been laid, not just here before the Madlanga Commission, but before the ad hoc committee as well. And it really paints a very grim picture of what is going on. So in terms of what needs to be done there, and also the trust deficit that has been there between members of the public and the police, that now I would imagine has become a canyon. So how does the president and, of course, government deal with this particular matter? Because how do we look at these people in the same light again and expect or trust that they will do the right thing going forward?
With the information that has been presented so far, it is very clear that a lot is wrong with our police in South Africa. There is a lot of corruption, there are a lot of groupings in the police, and there is a clear element of divisions. And when you see top police officials, you should look at them belonging to that other group or that other group. But what appears to be very interesting is the fact that one of the main role players in these activities, Mr. Matlala, appeared to have been able to create a good connection and entered straight into the police service top hierarchy, because on numerous occasions he would relate with a number of top police officials, whether they knew that he had other motives is something else. But the point is that I think he was able to infiltrate the system in a manner that he could easily arrange meetings to sit with the top police officials and have discussions about his businesses. And that is the information that we're getting now. So corruption, it's there in the system based on the information that we got. But when you look at the public, the trust, it's really disappearing, because you don't know who to trust now in the police service, whether it's a senior official or a junior official, because the junior officials take instructions from the top officials. So it's so difficult now to trust the police and the system.
Why are we not seeing any action? Why are we seeing this perpetual paralysis in the police and not doing their jobs? What is stopping them? From what we've heard here, surely the police cannot be saying we are waiting for the outcome of the Madlanga Commission. Affidavits have been adduced. People have come forward with information. Cases had been opened prior to the sitting of this commission. Why are they not acting?
Well, we have to speculate at this moment, but I think one of the possibilities is that the moment they start to act, then there's counter moves, there's counter action, and unfortunately, if they themselves are very close to the situation, so it comes very close to them, then they become paralyzed. And I think, I hate to say this, but that might be one of the possibilities, is that there are still some people in decision-making positions that might be implicated, but that we haven't heard yet. And that is an indication. I think what has opened up is this hornet's nest, the first part of it, or the visible part of it, about possibly a much deeper network of corruption and cooperation with criminal activity, with criminal syndicates, and that it's now a process of trying to protect themselves as much as possible. I don't want to make a general statement about this, because there's many good people involved in key positions. But I think what is the possible reason is that you are treading on toes, and it opens up, and it leads to exposing conflict of interests that exist. And so what it really needs is, and I'm not sure whether it is absolutely practically possible, but a clean sweep of new leadership that must come, especially in the police.
Where is it going to come from, given what needs to be done? If we look at the current witness before the Madlanga Commission, the KZN Hawks head, Major General Senona, and you look at his proximity to alleged criminal, elements in our society, and everything else that we've heard prior to this, who is supposed to act against these people, act against the wrongdoing, and arrest people?
It appears as if there is an element of knowing each other's activities and threats that are associated with that. That if you act on that one, I'll also act upon you. And that is why you get statements like, if he is clean, let him do this. We know how we're going to get him. So there appears to be a clear non-written agreement that these are the untouchables. If you touch this one, I'll touch that one. And that talks to the actual corrupt activities that are happening within the system. If you are a police general and you are very close to a criminal and you play ignorance, it tells you that there could be something that you're actually hiding. But it is clear that the criminal or criminals have been able to infiltrate the police system, and they are working with the police in South Africa.
How do we start afresh? We have literally less than a minute.
I think they should start at the top. That means there must be a very assertive minister. Unfortunately, the acting minister now is in a very difficult situation. There's still Minister Mkhwanazi in the background. So he cannot act really very much on his own. He doesn't have the status of a permanent minister or minister for... So that's where it should start. There should be a very strong person that leads from a political point of view. Then the top structure of the SAPS will have to be completely revamped.
And, I wish we had more time, but of course we'll have more opportunity. But for now, that's where we have to leave it. Thanks so much to Professor Dirk Kotzé as well as Dr. Levy Ndou for helping us with some analysis on what is a very complex matter and something that we, of course, need to clarify. Just to invoke a fellow analyst of theirs, Dr. Koko Obri Machikwe, who said it's about devils with halos and angels with horns, perhaps, because it seems nobody is untainted by all of this.